another year? That's what I was thinking as I drove in to get some gas on the way to work, getting back to my job the first day after vacation. Joe Harper came out to fill the tank and fix me up. He tells me he's glad to see me back. Then he takes one look and says, "Where did you get that hat?" Of course, he knew I'd been out in Wyoming. How did I like it, he wanted to know. Well, partner, Joe, that is the greatest country I have ever visited. It's got everything from scenery to antelope. Boy, did I hate to leave it. I told Joe that's where he and his family ought to spend a vacation. Joe says they've thought about it, but where's the money going to come from? You don't need a lot of money, I told Joe. An average family can make the trip on a reasonable budget. The whole secret is good management. Now, take my own family. Ever since some friends of ours told us about a vacation that they had spent in Wyoming, we've been champing at the bit to get out there ourselves. We read travel folders till we knew them by heart. But the answer was always the same. Eating in restaurants, staying in motels all the time, we just couldn't afford it. Well, I've got to admit, it was Junior who figured out how we could make the trip within our budget. He was reading his favorite magazine, all about hunting and fishing and camping. Camping, that's it. Let's camp out part of the time. Sure, I says, that's the answer. Not for me, says the wife. It's a long time since I was a campfire girl. Well, before I could say a word, the kids got to work. Wyoming, camping, wow. Oh, Mom, you gotta say yes. Well, the kids really put the heat on. Poor Mom. Junior says, we'll just camp part of the time. And I tell her that Junior and I will do the outdoor cooking. What could poor Mother say? You know, it's amazing. When you decide on a trip like this, you discover how many other people like to travel that way, have all kinds of camping equipment, and are glad, really glad to lend it to you. Why, friends and neighbors lent us just about everything we needed. All we had to do was to run a pickup service. And it seemed that every item we picked up brought our dream one step closer to reality. Finally, the magic day arrived. The last toothbrush was packed, the station wagon was loaded, everybody present and accounted for, and we were ready to go. Man, that's living. With a year's work behind you, carefree days ahead, point the car westward and let her go. Wyoming, here we come. Devil's Tower in the Black Hills of Wyoming, the first place we camped out. A lot of people don't realize that thousands of acres of the Black Hills lie in Wyoming. Out here in the West, you find that camping out is real popular. The campgrounds are attractive, and lots of people who could afford the best hotels or motels camp out because it's fun. You know, travelers, campers, they're all friendly people. And brother, I needed a friend. Where there's smoke, there's fire, they say, but not the ones I build. I better give him a hand, the old timer figured. And over he came to see if he could help me out a little. Junior, the rascal, was supposed to get the fire going. He knows how to do these things from his Boy Scout experience. But he and the girls had found a bunch of prairie dogs that were as friendly as you please. They're a ground squirrel, they tell me, but they bark, so they got the name prairie dogs. Well, the kids had fun, and with the old-timer's help, I got the fire going strong. Of course, the kids got back in time for the meal. Devil's Tower was declared America's first national monument way back in 1906. Starting from its base down at the Belle Fourche River, it goes straight up for 1,280 feet. The day we were there, we noticed some tiny white specks on the side of the tower. You know what they were? Mountain climbers. Mountaineers come from all over the world to scale the tower. Me? I stayed below and watched. From Devil's Tower, we went on to Gillette, a town in the heart of the greatest antelope hunting area in the nation. As we parked on the main street, the girls suddenly cried, "Cowboys!" And there they were, real honest-to-goodness ones who come to Gillette to do their training, and then back to the wide open spaces. Those wide open spaces give you, I don't know, a different feeling about things. The whole family was relaxed, ready for adventure and fun. Junior said, "Hey, this side road looks interesting." And we say, "Okay, let's see where it goes." Now that's my idea of a vacation. Leave enough room in the schedule to follow an impulse, to get off the beaten track. And we found out what people are missing in Wyoming when they just whiz along to get to the night stopping place. After all, it's the unusual, different things that we wanted to see. Like looking down on famous Powder River, which rises in northern Wyoming and flows 500 miles to join the Yellowstone. But the real thrill was the sight of the herd at Little Buffalo Ranch. Right from our car, we could see many of the 300 head of buffalo. 50 years ago, they tell me, the buffalo was almost extinct. But thanks to national parks and ranches like this, there are plenty of buffalo now. Walking right into the herd was a thrill we'll never forget. Although I must confess these ranch buffalo were more interested in eating than in noticing visitors. That evening, in the full glory of a Wyoming sunset, we made our second camp up. What a change from hustle and bustle of everyday life. Here on the wide and open prairie, peace and beauty seemed to be everywhere, and everlasting. When dawn came up the next morning, as Junior and I were sleeping in the station wagon, the women, as we called them, were sleeping in the tent, Junior suddenly woke me and pointed to the horizon. The rest of the family had already spotted them. A herd of pronghorn antelope having breakfast on the ridge above us. How's that for a sight to start off a day in Wyoming? Or what about the herd of mule deer that bounded off at our approach a few hours later? Wyoming, you know, is one of the greatest states for big game hunting. The next day, in Buffalo, Wyoming, we were leaving the restaurant after lunch when my attention was caught by an automobile advertising Lake DeSmet. The lake is 8 miles from Buffalo on the Henry Ford Memorial Highway. Well, the lady at the wheel told us that rainbow trout in the lake were the king-size variety. And pretty soon our station wagon and an airplane were both making a landing at the Seney Point Resort. I don't think I'll ever get used to the casual way in which these Westerners whip around in small aircraft. Up at the cabin office, we thought for sure we must be seeing double when we were welcomed by the owners, a pair of twins. As soon as my wife got a glimpse of the excellent accommodations, I knew there'd be no camping out that night, and I couldn't blame her for that. Besides, Junior and I were plenty eager to tie into some of those trout. How would you like this view to greet you when you wake up in the morning? Now, I don't say I'm in great shape as a fisherman, but I sure get a kick out of it. As for Junior, he could hardly wait till breakfast was over and we were out on the lake. The fellows who operate the camp told us just how to catch them. And lo and behold, Junior had one before we were 10 minutes out, and it was a plenty big one. And this time we got pictures to prove it to the folks back home. In Sheridan, we stood on Main Street and watched the most colorful parade we had ever seen. The All-American Indian Days were going on. First thing we saw were some real Indian braves, followed by the American Legion drum and bugle corps, dressed in authentic uniforms of General Custer's day. Fairgrounds, where the Indians had pitched their teepees, and where there were many other attractions. I was glad to pay the admission price. You see, all proceeds go to the Shriners Hospital for Crippled Children. We all got a kick out of meeting famous old chiefs at this All-American Indian get-together. And little Mary Jo sure got something to tell her school chums about. And I sure got something to tell the boys in the plant about when I took a gander at the candidates for Miss Indian American. rest at one of Sheridan's fine motels, we were ready to take off again to see what else Wyoming had in store for us. Fine motels and hotels are abundant throughout the state, and prices are very reasonable. That afternoon, we had some real luck. We wanted to be sure to visit the Teton ranch. That was a must on our list, and we were lucky enough to get in without a reservation. The kids were really thrilled. If the folks hadn't taken us in, we sure would have been a sorry family. The next morning, why, naturally, the family had to go for a ride. The horses must have looked awful big to little Mary Jo. And I might as well tell you, when I got through putting on my cowboy boots, that horse looked kind of big to me, too. How on earth do you get up on one of these things? Well, I guess I'm not the first dude who got this treatment. As Jimmy Durante might say, it's humiliating. But it would be even more humiliating to stay here and watch my kids ride off. Anyway, now I know one advantage in being very young. Nobody laughs when you can't get up on a horse by yourself. None of the others seem to have any trouble at all. So far as I know, they've never been on a horse in their life. But here they get up on them as though they've been riding horses since the day they were born. The cowboys got us organized in a cabin. That's what they call a flock of horses in Wyoming, and headed us up into the mountains. After you get a little used to the ups and downs of a horse in motion, it's not too bad. And after a while, you begin to feel like that fellow they sing about, the king of the wild frontier. Our next stop was a campout on top of the Bighorns, right near a crystal clear trout stream in the Forest Service campground. The girls wanted to pick flowers. Me? I had other ideas. Come on, Junior, let's show Mother how we keep down the eating expenses on this trip. Just a half dozen is all we need, and I bet I get most of it. In Wyoming, there's something to please everybody's taste. Mother and the girls love flowers. Father and the boy love fishing. Something for everybody. That Junior, I better beat him in today's catch. Ever since he beat me at Lake DeSmet, there's been no living with him. And so the afternoon went on. The girls got their flowers, and I trimmed Junior, 4-2. When we reached Cody, they were having a rodeo. And brother, those rodeos are the real McCoy in Wyoming. And speaking of Wyoming, there's something I've been wanting to do ever since I hit the state. Mainly because the kids wanted to come. I had seen bucking horses on TV, but here I found myself yelling my head off. These cowboys sure didn't come out of any drugstore, and they tell me they have 50 of these rodeos throughout the state. Is the main eastern entrance to Yellowstone National Park. Naturally, we had to take our pictures standing by Buffalo Bill's statue in Cody before we headed into this great national park. The highway passes the famous Buffalo Bill Dam and winds its way up the beautiful Shoshone River. Mother Nature was surely in a playful artistic mood when she created this canyon with its natural sculptures. For example, the Laughing Pig, Chimney Rock, slim and tall, and of all things, the Henry Ford Rock. Mary Jo was too young to have heard of the old Model T, so she couldn't see how very appropriate the name is. Along the highway are located many fine lodges where you can stay overnight or as long as you wish. Pahaska means long hair in the Sioux language. The lodge gets its name from Buffalo Bill's long flowing locks. Well, this used to be Buffalo Bill's hunting lodge. During the big game hunting season, many hunters make their base camp at such lodges and then pack back into the high country. Yellowstone Park and its wildlife are national treasures, a wonderland for all Americans to enjoy. What thoughts came into the minds of the first Indians who ever saw this geyser? And the magnificent waterfalls, thundering down in sunlit spray, falling there since ancient times when our whole continent was uninhabited. We saw mud volcanoes bubbling from the depths of the earth, and many other things. Yellowstone is full of wonders, including bears who beg shamelessly for tourist food. Tourists forget that although the bears seem perfectly tame, they're by nature wild animals, and in the interest of safety ought to be treated with caution. Grand Teton National Park is just south of Yellowstone, separated by a strip of forest only a few miles wide. The park gets its name from the magnificent Teton Mountains, often called the American Alps. Many lakes lie at the base of the mountains, of which Jackson Lake is the largest. Among trees so tall and stately that they look to us like columns supporting the sky, we camped out in what is undoubtedly the finest free campground in any of our national parks. This brand new campground is at Culver Bay on Jackson Lake. For sylvan beauty, nearby Jenny Lake is second to none. It was here that we saw the darndest sight, a rainbow trout dinner. Not a dinner of trout, but for trout. Ever see anything like that outside an aquarium? The chairlift to the top of Snow King Mountain brings you to a breathtaking view of the Jackson Hole country, including Jackson itself, snuggling at the base of the mountain. To the south of Jackson is Pinedale, right in the heart of the lake country of Wyoming. Everything a vacationer could want is found here. Good lodges and motels, fine public campgrounds, fishing, boating, swimming, we're all at our door. Our boat ride on Fremont Lake is something we will always remember. The lake is beautiful, the scenery magnificent. Near Daniel, we came across the Green River. Many years ago, this was a rendezvous for the old beaver trappers who opened up this country. Of course, I've never been to Switzerland. I never saw the mountains they have there, or the alpine valleys. But from what I've read and heard, I don't think they can be much more beautiful than Star Valley in Wyoming. At any rate, Star Valley is beautiful enough for me. The valley is often called the Little Switzerland of America. As a matter of fact, it's so like Switzerland in every way that Swiss cheese made right here in the valley has won 11 international prizes. No mountains are more appropriately named than the Snowy Range in the southern part of the state, near Saratoga and Laramie, in the Medicine Bow National Forest. That's one of 4 national forests completely located in Wyoming, which also has portions of 4 other national forests within its boundaries. In this canyon, a great river changes its name. Here the Wind River flows north to a spot known as the Wedding of the Waters, whereupon the Wind River becomes the Bighorn. A few miles downstream is the city of Thermopolis and the world's largest mineral hot springs. They tell me that 18 million gallons of hot water flow out of these springs every 24 hours. These great springs have created natural terraces of mineral deposits, so neatly built that it's hard to believe they were not erected by expert craftsmen. After a stroll along the terraces, the family was ready for a swim in one of the pools at the springs. Swimming in this naturally warm water is an unforgettable experience. Made us feel like a couple of kids again. Now, Wyoming is not all mountainous, but the Great Plains to the east are also rich in points of interest, such as Ayers Natural Bridge between Douglas and Casper. Anyone interested in the old days of the West, and who isn't, will have a wonderful time touring Wyoming. This is old Fort Phil Kearny, an early military post. Winding its way across the state is the historic Oregon Trail, route of the covered wagons and Pony Express to the great Northwest. The name Wyoming means end of the plains, and the trail carried pioneers across the Continental Divide and over the Rockies. Along the Platte River, ruts cut deep in the sandstone by countless wagons are mute reminders of that great westward movement. The trail entered Wyoming near Fort Laramie. In addition to being a military post, the fort was a vital haven of safety for the wagon trains making their way westward. From old Fort Casper, another landmark along the trail, has sprung the modern city of Casper, oil capital of Wyoming. About midway across the state is Independence Rock, where the wagon trains often camped. Pioneer names are still visible, chiseled on the face of this famous landmark. At the Continental Divide, South Pass City is a thriving metropolis on the Oregon Trail. Its neighbor, Atlantic City, is another ghost town, full of antique memories. The gold-domed Capitol building in Cheyenne, Wyoming state capital, is a must for most travelers to the state, especially those with children who can learn a good deal of history, geography, and civics in an enjoyable manner. When we visited the Capitol building, we had quite an experience. A man wearing a big cowboy hat greeted us in a real friendly way, just the way most Westerners do. We asked him a couple of questions about what to see, and he gave us directions as if he knew the Capitol well. Well, about this time, a fellow came busting out of the building, yelling, "Hey, Governor!" And who turns around but the man who had given us directions? Was I surprised? I guess I never figured I'd meet the governor of the state. Well, that sure made our trip complete. And you know, Joe, it seems to me I can still see Old Faithful, the geyser out in Yellowstone, sending that steam way up in the sky. Hey, that's not Old Faithful. That's the Platte Whistle. And I'm going to be late my first morning back on the job.